All right, Tigers drop the series finale in Milwaukee, headed back home coming off of a loss. Freddie Peralta is really good at his job. Let's talk about it all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Thursday, April 27th, 2023. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen. Every single day, we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Alrighty, well, Tigers drop the series finale to Milwaukee, but still walk away with a series victory. So, as we said a million times yesterday, we'll take it. 2-6 final in Milwaukee. Let's just get right into it because if we have time at the end, I do want to talk a little bit more about the Orioles specifically. I feel like as I said, I want to do a lot more talking about other teams as well. Obviously, not like we're talking about the Tigers every day, but I do want to like preview other teams and give my thoughts and opinions on the other teams in baseball as well. And because we play every single team now, I have the ability to do that with all 30 opponents in theory. So, or all 29 rather opponents in theory. So, didn't really get to preview the first Baltimore series. So, if we have time at the end, I'll kind of just ramble about my opinion of the current Baltimore Orioles. But first, we got to talk about this ball game. Like I said, 6-2 loss to the Brew Crew. Michael Lorenzen starts this ball game. Probably the biggest storyline of the game. Probably, maybe Javi, but we'll talk about him in a second. Michael Lorenzen starts 5 innings pitched, 7 hits, 5 earned runs, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts. That is for 100 pitches total as well. Just had absolutely zero command in the first 3 innings, especially, but really throughout this entire ball game. Was all over the place in the zone, was all over the place out of the zone. Pretty much anywhere he was trying to put the ball, it was not going there. Hit the first batter of the ball game. Yeah, he plunked Yelich first AB, 2 or 3 pitches into the outing. So, yeah, it was really the breaking stuff specifically. Just any non-fastball or sinker. Just really, really tough command day for any breaking ball. Just no feel for it at all. The changeup looked good, like shape-wise and bite-wise. But he also was kind of all over the place with that one. Left it up in the zone like randomly a couple of times. Obviously not on purpose. Just a rough day for him as far as command went. Yeah, I mean, at one point he just said like screw it and just started throwing the sinker a lot because he knew that if he could at least get that in the zone, it could maybe prevent like extra base hits from happening. He could maybe okay, I don't have to be perfect pinpoint accuracy. I can just throw this pitch and hopefully get some ground balls. And you know, to his credit, in the fourth and fifth inning, he kind of did that. So like, this wasn't a good outing. No one's going to try to convince you that this was a good outing. So 3 starts in now. That's 2 stinkers and 1 really good outing for Michael Lorenzen, right? As a Tiger. The velo was still a little bit down from what we were used to last season, as far as Lorenzen goes, like what we saw today. Rather, definitely still down a couple of ticks, couple of miles an hour down across the board. So we'll see how he continues to progress. We'll see. But the one thing that like this was obviously not good, but the stuff is not an issue. The stuff is really not bad. The slider moves a lot. His changeup is a really good pitch, actually, like a plus pitch. The fact that he can go to the sinker if he needs to is nice to have in the back pocket. But 3 starts in, command has been rough. And again, like last Saturday, he what did he go? Shutout through 5, 1 run through 5. I think it was shutout through 5 against Baltimore. So, like he's yeah, two not great ones, 1 okay start. Just needs to get the command back under him, but we do have to remember coming off the injury, kind of a little bit of a later start than everybody else in the rotation. So we'll see. We'll see how his next couple of starts are, how he continues to progress. This one, obviously, not a very good one. That all being said, okay, I cannot stress how huge it was for him to get through the fifth inning in terms of like actually still giving not only your team a chance to win this ball game today, but setting you up for the weekend. It would have been awful if he got rocked and then we had to go to the pen and use like 5 relievers the day before we start a 4-game set against a good baseball team like the O's. That would have been awful. So the fact that we only had to use 2 relievers in this baseball game, despite him getting rocked early, he recovered. So I'm not going to say nicely, but like he recovered, shut out fourth and fifth inning. Like they didn't score. Well, I guess they had the solo homer there at the end. What was it? 2 outs in the eighth, like their second to last batter of the ball game, solo homer there. But like up until that, like they'd stopped the bleeding. They had held it at the Brewers at 5 runs, and that was after the third inning they scored the 5th run. So like the fact that Lorenzen and obviously the bullpen, much in large part to the pen, which we'll talk about later, continues to impress. The fact that they were able to kind of limit that damage and stop the bleeding and put the bubble gum over the hole in the water pipe and prevent them from kind of getting more and more out of hand. And like we had the tying run at the plate at one point in this baseball game, like after they had already scored 5 runs. We had the tying run at the plate at one point. So really, really important for him to still, even, through 100 pitches, but the fact that he was able to go 5 and put us in a position where we only had to use 2 relievers a day after Spencer Turnbull only went 4 and we had to use 3 relievers, and the day before a 4-game set against a good baseball team. That sets us up a lot nicer than we could have. That we'll take that. I mean, I guess we won't. I would like to win baseball games, but relatively speaking, it could have been a lot worse, I guess, is my point. So yeah, not trying to convince you that this outing was good, but the fact that he was able to go 5 and limit the damage after the third inning is at least somewhat of a win for. I don't even like using the word win. We lost the baseball game. It was nice. Strategically going forward sets us up nicer than it could have. The offense did what the offense has done this season. 3 for 12 with runners in scoring position in this baseball game. Awful again. This one was particularly frustrating because they had runners on second and third, like pretty consistently at the end of Peralta's outing, and even like after Peralta was out of the game. Like they went to their bullpen and there was a solid 2 or 3 inning stretch where they had a runner on second or third, like pretty consistently there for about a third of the ball game, and just was not able to do anything with it whatsoever. They had 1 inning where they had a nice little 2-out rally, scored a run, then hit him in, all with 2 outs. Akil Baddoo and Jake Rogers. Really, really nice to see that. That was good. That was fun. And it was 1 inning. They still went 3 for 12 with RISP as far as the whole game goes. So, yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, you had the tying run at the plate at one point. You had 2 on, like you did, but no power, no timely hitting, no walks, and 11 strikeouts as well, which is very much worth noting. This was not just like the Tigers got on base, 15 times and only scored 2 runs. Like they could have been worse. They weren't terrible. They didn't get no hit, but no walks and 11 Ks is, yeah, that's a tough day at the office for anybody. Freddie Peralta is also really, really, really good at his job. His fastball is very lively. His stuff moves so insanely much. When he spins it, man, there are a few people that spin it more and spin it better. And yeah, like for him, his approach was really just fastball heavy, all for strikes, filled the zone. And then like the 2 or 3 people in the lineup that hit fastballs really well, he just didn't throw them fastballs. So yeah, like Torkelson got a lot of sliders low and away. Didn't really do anything with them. Then Kerry Carpenter didn't get very many heaters in the strike zone. And Nick Maton did not get very many heaters in the strike zone. And then the other 6 hitters in the lineup just got really good command, dotting fastballs at really tough locations to do anything with. And it was a Freddie Peralta masterclass. Yeah. What do you go? 6 innings, 4 hits, no walks, no runs, 8 Ks. Not bad. He's pretty good at his job. So let's get into some individual performances, and then we'll get to the bullpen, which shined yet again. But first, I got to tell y'all about our friends over at eBay Motors. eBay Motors is the best. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can make sure every part you need fits just right the first time around. Just add your ride to the My Garage and look for the green check to know that your part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop at eBay Motors. And with over 112 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it is easy to bring home a win when the parts are guaranteed. So get the right parts, get the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. All right, everybody. Welcome back here, segment 2, Locked On Tigers. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. Friday episode tomorrow, we'll be recapping game 1 of the Baltimore series and then talking about the not the winnability. Let me tell you, we're done using that phrase. But we will be talking about what the weekend has in store for Detroit as well. I think I might be at a certain baseball game on Friday night. We'll see what happens. So let's talk about this ball game first, though. Individual performances. Okay, let's talk individually. We talk about the team approach. It's really a same story, different day as far as clutch and timely hitting individually. So we have to start with Javi Baez gets hit in the hand. First at bat of the ball game. Thankfully, X-rays are negative, which means it's just a contusion, which is, to my knowledge, just a fancy word for bad bruise. Now, some of you are literally doctors. I've had people, last time I tried to diagnose Matt Manning's broken foot, I had literal doctors reach out and were like, "Hey, love the show. This is how you say that. You work pretty close." And I was like, "Oh, thanks." So, and someone else much smarter than me could tell me if I'm wrong, but to my knowledge, contusion is just like kind of a bad bruise. So that sounds like it's all it is. They actually asked Javi about the injury after the game, and he pretty much said he's not going to go on the IL. Hinch said he's day to day. Javi said he plans on playing Thursday or Friday. So you're talking about, it sounds like at worst, he obviously didn't play the remainder of this game, basically didn't play. He had half of an at bat in the first inning and then was done. So potentially missing Wednesday and Thursday's game, back Friday. Sounds like Javi's timetable at least. Let's talk about Riley Green. He kind of lifted the ball to the pull side. He kind of did. He kind of did it. Like, it wasn't some crushed, like, frozen rope down the line. It wasn't a pull home run. It wasn't like he didn't get under it, and it wasn't like a huge fly ball or anything. It was a nice line drive single to the pull side, but it was well over the head of the second baseman and the first baseman, like very clearly, not just like, oh, it went in between them and it was catchable, like lifted the baseball to the pull side, which was great. Then naturally, he followed that up. He went 1 for 4 with that single and then 3 groundouts. So as baseball does. But even despite, like, I'm glad to know it's possible, really. So like I'm still kind of buzzing. I'm still kind of that's where we're at. Where I'm really happy about a loss in which Riley Green hit a single, but I'm glad to see that he at least has some adjustment he can make to ensure that is actually a possibility. That's nice to see. Just got to get it more consistent. All about bat path and swing and such. So I'm sure he's working on it a lot. This isn't something like that we're all talking about literally every day that he's not painfully aware of. I'm sure it's frustrating for him too. And yeah, obviously I'm sure he's trying to figure it out just as we are. Came in with a new with a mustache. Came in with a new facial hair thing going on today. Seems like maybe trying to change the mojo a little bit. So I respect that. Respect some mojo shifting techniques. Tyler Nevin. I almost said Phil Nevin. Tyler Nevin, 3-pitch strikeout in this one. It was a pinch hit AB. Probably not even worth bringing up, but just like continues to not really put together competitive at bats at the major league level. To be fair to him, the first ball that was thrown to him in the at bat was like at his eyes, and it was called a strike. One of the worst strike calls of the afternoon, maybe the worst. So that was not great, but yeah, his numbers so far as a major leaguer are not very good. And everybody wants Justin Henry Malloy in the majors. I assure you that they're going to take every look at it. I still think they're waiting until mid-May, though. I hope they don't, but I still think they're going to. Jake Rogers, couple of good at-bats, which was nice to see. Badu did damage. That was a big thing to point out in this one. Akil Badu does some damage. 2 extra base hits, making his presence felt on the base paths, which he always does. Yeah, really good. One to the opposite field, one to the pull side, both for doubles. Really nice to see. Obviously, Jake Rogers actually hit him home on his first double, but he was left stranded in I think he had a leadoff double and didn't score for his second double. So that was tough, obviously. But yeah, nice to see him. He's gonna be in the same breath as Vierling. Like if those two guys can just find a way to get on base at a semi decent clip, they are so valuable out there on the base paths, more valuable than probably anybody else on the team. So trying to find creative ways or just like normal baseball ways to get those two dudes on base is a definitely something that this team wants to do as often as possible. Yeah, like just to wrap up the offense, like as a whole, again, like if you're wondering why there isn't more talk about players individually who didn't do well with runners in scoring position. Like I talk about it in the team sense, and then I go to individual players and I'm like, oh, Jake Rogers had some like good at bats. He actually had a timely AB or whatnot. But like I just kind of transition to that, and then I don't talk about any individual performances in which like, oh, this guy left a runner on base, whatever. It's because literally everybody had at least one bad at bat with a runner on base. Like if you want to talk the whole lineup, everybody who played in this baseball game, the only players that didn't have a runner left on base after the final out were Riley Green and Akil Badu. I guess technically Javi Baez because he had one at bat and he got hit by a pitch. So like you're 7 of 9 guys left a runner on base in this ball game. So like it's literally everyone. I'm not going to break down every single of the what do we go 3 for 10, 3 for 12 did I say with runners in scoring position? We don't need to break down all 10 failed opportunities. Like it was everybody. It sucks. We're desperately waiting for somebody to just be good with runners in scoring position. I tweeted out yesterday morning as you're listening to this, as a team, the Tigers are batting under 200 on the season with runners in scoring position. They have like a 194 average, which is somehow not the worst in baseball. The Padres have a worst average. And then if you're looking at OPS with runners in scoring position, they also have the second worst. It's like in the mid 500s. It's awful. And the second worst on that is the Royals. So like, it's everyone. Okay, everybody. Very frustrating. Let's talk about this bullpen, but first, I have to tell y'all about our friends over at BetterHelp. As y'all know, this one hits close to home to me. As I've said a few times, I've been going to therapy for 5 or 6 years now, and BetterHelp is a great way for you to do that. Getting to know yourself can be a lifelong process, especially when we're always growing and changing. Which is what makes the fact that this episode is brought to you by BetterHelp really, really cool. It's all about deepening your self-awareness and understanding, because sometimes we don't know what we want or why we react the way we do until we talk through things with a professional. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who can take you on the journey of self-discovery from wherever you are. So yeah, if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. I cannot express how cool that is. So discover your potential with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/LockedOnMLB today to get 10% off of your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnMLB today. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Let's talk about the bullpen and then talk about this series against Baltimore. Yeah, the bullpen was great yet again. I agree with the personnel, like toward the end of Lorenzen's outing, kind of on the edge of my seat. Like, if this gets out of hand, this is not going to be good. I really, really don't want to use a ton of relievers the day before we start a 4-game set against Baltimore. So again, I already talked about that earlier. Glad that he was able to do that. Kind of knew it was going to be a Tyler Holton day, just because they used Tyler Alexander yesterday and Mason Englert yesterday. So as far as dudes that they could stretch out and get multiple innings out of, Tyler Holton was kind of the obvious choice there. So knew that he was going to be in there. And then just off of the sheer fact that he probably wasn't going to go 4 innings, I figured we'd see Will Vest at one point as well. And that's what they did. I had the order different. I thought they were just going to let Holton go as long as he could and then have Vest close it out, but they did the opposite and ended up being fine. Will Vest, man, 1 inning pitched, no hits, runs, or walks. Sorry, no hits or runs, 1 walk, struck out the side though, 3 Ks. This was easily the best stuff I've seen from Will Vest in a very long time. That's even dating back to like the end of last season. Like, I didn't think he looked great in the second half of last year as far as stuff goes. He was optioned at one point, but this was really good stuff. Fastball slider combo really looked sharp in this one. Velo is good. Yeah, some of the best stuff I've seen from him in a minute. Tyler Holton, 2 innings pitched, 1 hit, 1 earned run, no walks, 2 strikeouts. The only hit, obviously, being the solo homer given up to the Michigan native over there on the Brewers. So, yeah, like his changeup has been pretty good so far this season. It's been a pretty effective pitch. He gave up a ton of home runs in Toledo. Like, it's insane. Like a lot, only pitched like 7 or 8 innings down there before getting called up and gave up a boatload of homers. So I kind of figured that this was inevitable at some point. But the stuff wasn't bad, and he attacked hitters. Like, didn't let anyone, didn't beat himself, made the hitters, beat him. Was pounding the strike zone pretty consistently there. The home run pitch was not good location, left that pitch way too up. But yeah, like just solid. And I wasn't really expecting it. So nice to see, but this bullpen continues to impress. And yeah, like as a whole, the pen did its job in this game yet again, like keeping the score close to what it was when they took over. Was again, if it wasn't for the second to last batter of the day for the Brewers, I mean, would have kept it at 5 there. Just the offense is the offense, and they did, to their credit, like they had base runners late, they had runners on base late, then runners in scoring position late. They had good at-bats against the back end of this bullpen late. Not Devin Williams, because Devin Williams is like one of the most insane relievers I've ever seen in my life. But like everybody else, they put together some competitive at-bats, got some dudes on base with a chance to score and cut into that lead even more. Just no timely hitting. So, well, that's going to obviously, very obviously, is like the biggest thing that needs to change for this team. If you're not going to hit homers, you need to hit well runners in scoring position. Need to. Desperately need to. But yeah, the everything else, I mean, bullpen has been great. One of the best bullpens in baseball over the last 2 weeks. The starting rotation after the first time through has been pretty solid. Solid enough, at least, to keep us in a lot of ball games. So yeah, it's really just going to come down heavily to how decent can this offense be. I tweeted this out as well on Wednesday morning. The Tigers have the 11th highest hard hit rate in the game of baseball as far as like team hard hit rate goes. 11th highest, almost a top 10 team in hard hit rate. But As some people pointed it out on Twitter, and as the data says, they are strike out a lot still, and they also have the third highest ground ball rate in all of baseball that out of any team. So something that needs to be addressed. Like they're hitting the ball hard, but right into the ground. Lift the ball a little bit, boys. Lift the ball a little bit, and this team actually might be able to not be the worst offense in baseball. Okay. Not the bar is on the ground. The bar is so low. Just asking for not the worst offense in baseball. Like just lift the ball a little bit, and some damage can maybe be done. We've talked about some of the players individually. Green and Cabrera, especially, are just ground ball machines so far this season. But yeah, we'll see. So heading into a series at home against Baltimore now, the first series, the sweep last weekend was obviously in Baltimore. This one's in Comerica Park. There is some stuff that I want to point out just as riff about the Orioles team as a whole, and then talk about some more numbers comparing and contrasting these two teams. So as I said, Tigers have the third highest ground ball rate as a team in baseball so far. The Orioles have the third lowest. And there's about a 10% difference in our ground ball rate and their ground ball rate. Ours is like 47 and theirs is around 38. So much, much lower. Much lower. So that's one thing. I mean, don't need to talk about anymore. Just kind of went on and on about it. But just adjustments need to be made for this team to lift the ball a little bit because they are hitting the ball hard. This team being the Tigers. The pitching staffs, when you compare those, the Tigers pitching staff, like numbers wise, is like slowly shaping up to actually be like bullpen and starters included all in one, has been one of the better in baseball so far. The fourth fewest walks in the game of baseball is something that I wanted to point out. Obviously, Scott Harris infamously said he wanted to dominate the strike zone. The offense, we have not seen that very much in, but the pitching staff, they are not allowing walks. And the Orioles are right behind the Tigers at the fifth fewest walks allowed as a pitching staff in the game of baseball. So, team that when again we just played them, so there's not too much that you don't already know, and we're getting a lot of the same pitchers as well. But something to keep in mind, like this is a team that usually pounds the strike zone as well. So if they are all over the place like Gibson was when we played them last weekend, you gotta work walks as much as you can because they're going to be pretty few and far between. So yeah, like the Orioles have some dudes that are going to rake, especially at the top of that lineup. Cedric Mullins is a really good baseball player. Adley Rutschman, for my money, is already one of the two best catchers in the game of baseball. So like they have their thumpers, they have their dudes that are going to do damage, but it is worth noting that they do have like still some holes in the lineup early on. Like Gunnar Henderson has not been very good so far. Frazier has not been very good so far as an Oriole, and even dating back to before he was an Oriole, he wasn't very good as a Padre either. Really, just since leaving Pittsburgh, has kind of struggled. So, like there are some holes in the lineup, and like the pitching for the Tigers has not been the problem. So if we're looking at the pitchers that we're going to face Gibson again. We're going to face Grayson Rodriguez again. I'm not going to call the series winnable. It's not happening. You're not going to catch me doing it. I'm still a ball player at heart. We're not gonna jinx anything. Okay, I think we're 0-6 on games that I call winnable so far this season. So not going to catch me doing that. But I would just like to not get swept. Like genuinely. Again, the bar is on the floor. I just don't want to get swept. Go into this weekend, maybe try and take 2 of 2, split a series against Baltimore. I think we'd all take that. Right? You come out, what would that make you? 11-15, 11-16? I think most people would probably take that. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not going to get ahead of myself. But this is not some like unbeatable juggernaut. But last weekend, you scored 1 run in each of the 3 games. You literally scored 3 runs evenly distributed amongst a 3-game series. You're not going to win ball games that way. So hopefully back at home, boys maybe will be buzzing in Comerica Park. And yeah, just desperately need the offense to pick it up a little bit. But I do really like this Orioles team. They're fixing to have a pretty nice season. The AL East is just absolutely insane. It would not surprise me, especially with the fact that you don't play teams in your own division as much anymore. It would not shock me at all if like all 5 teams in the AL East were over 500. Like that would be like not the most shocking thing ever to me. A lot of good ball clubs out there. So we'll see. But I mean, you're going to have most of your rotation. Everybody but Lorenzen, I guess, is pretty much gonna pitch this weekend. So let's make something happen. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We'll be back tomorrow for a Friday episode, hopefully recapping a win, but it's not winnable. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch y'all tomorrow, baby. Go Tigers.